All right, so factoring when there is an a value out front, ax squared plus bx plus c. The first option is your guess and check method, which is what I taught when we were back in Unit 5. So if I was factoring this, it's just unfoiling. So it's just a trial and error. So what we're going to do here is I'm going to write it in pencil, not pen, because I need to do some guess and check. So one option you could do is 6x times x. Okay. The other option is you could have had 3x and 2x. So there's a couple different options here. We're going to have to do quite a few different times in order to try these. Now 4 could be broken up into a positive 1 and a negative 4. Foil it. 6x squared minus 24x plus x. That's way too far from negative 5. So I know that's not going to work. Let's try to switch the 4 and the 1. 6x squared, that works. Outside's going to be negative 6x and then 4x. So negative 6x and 4x, that does not give me negative 5x. That didn't work. So I've tried 1 and 4 in both spots. So you can make a list over here, and we've done them both ways there. The other option for negative 4 is 2 and 2. Now, your signs don't really matter at this point. We're looking for our middle term to work out to get to 5, and then if it becomes 5 or negative 5, that'll tell us if our signs are correct with the positive and negative. But we'll eventually get there. Okay, so we'll try 2 and 2. My outside will be negative 12x. My inside will be 2x. There's not a way to reverse those, so I've done both of those. Negative 10x is not negative 5x, so that's not going to work. So I've tried everything with 6x and x, and it didn't work. So what I'm going to do now, let me erase my check marks because I'm going to try those again, but this time I'm going to try it with 3x and 2x. That gives me 6x squared for the first. So let's try 1 and 4. I'm just going to put the signs randomly. My outside is going to be 12x. Minus my inside is 2x. That does not work. So let's try flipping them. We'll try 4 and 1. So we tried it one way, now we're going to try it the other way. My outside is 3x, my inside is minus 8x. And that does give me negative 5x. So far I'm good. I already checked my first, that's 6x squared. Plus my last is minus 4. This is the exact same value as what I started with. So that's going to be my factored form. Now let's say in the middle here, I had this was my plus sign, am I guessing, and this was my subtraction sign. I know that that's the right answer, but if this was the case, what would have happened is when I tried my outside and my inside, I would end up with a positive 5x, so I just had the wrong sign. That just means flip the signs. So your numbers are right. You just have to flip the signs then. So there it is. There's my factored form, which I got from Guess and Check. We're going to try it over here. Now this one's a little bit nicer because 3 can't be broken up into more than one way. The only way you can write this is 3x times x. So I'm going to go ahead and put that in pen because I know that first term is right. And then my last term, I either, again, have 1 and 4 or 2 and 2. So it's just a trial and error. So try 1 and 4. Again, it's negative. So we're just going to put some signs in there. My outside would be negative 12x. My inside would be plus x. And look at that. On my very first try, I ended up guessing it right. So that one worked out really well. I know that this is then my factored form. So then why do we have another method? It's called the British method. The British method, what it does is it takes our guess and check and actually finds a method so that we don't have to do guess and check. So I will show that to you. You do not have to do the British method. You do not have to know the British method for this class. Guess and check will work every single time. If it's factorable, you will be able to find it. So let me show you how to do the British method with those same exact problems. So, the same way that we did before, where you had to figure out, find two numbers that multiply to a number, and find two numbers that add to a number. They have to multiply to take the end numbers, multiply them together, negative 24. Our two numbers will have to multiply to negative 24, add to that middle term, negative 5. So two numbers that multiply to negative 24 and add to negative 5. The two numbers I come up with are negative 8 and positive 3. So then what you're going to do is you're going to write this middle term as two terms. 6x squared minus 8x plus 3x minus 4. Now you didn't change the value, you just broke it up. Instead of combining like terms, we uncombined like terms. Okay? Now, when you get it to 4 terms, we learned a different way to factor. That was by grouping, which we did down here. So if you see, I'll show you again, you would group the first two, group the second two. When you do that, you're looking for a greatest common factor in that first one. Our greatest common factor between 6 and 8 is 2. Greatest common factor between x squared and x is x. What's left on the inside? 2 times 3 would get me 6. X times x would give me x squared. Minus 2 times 4 would get me 8. X times 1 would give me the x. Plus sign. There is not a greatest common factor between this one, so this one would just be 1. Then you have those parentheses that are matching, so that's our greatest common factor that we pull out front. And what's left is 2x plus 1. You'll notice that this is the answer we got up here. 3x minus 4 times 2x plus 1. We didn't have to do all this work in between because we just had to FOIL it and make sure that it worked, which we did. This one here, we need to think of two numbers that multiply to, take the ends, multiply them together. Negative 12, they add to negative 11. So what two numbers will multiply to negative 12 that add to negative 11? Negative 12 and a positive 1 would add to negative 11. When you multiply them, they get you to negative 12. So what I'm going to do here is you break apart that negative 11x, 3x squared plus 1x minus 12x minus 4. Now, it doesn't matter the order you write those in. Okay? Now, once I have that, what you're going to do now is group them. Now, this is where it gets a little tricky when you group them because you have to think about that as plus and negative. So that negative sign is on the inside because you only want that negative applied to the 12. And if it was on the outside, it would be applying to both. So GCF between 3 and 1 would just be 1. Between x squared and x is x. 3x plus 1 is left. I don't like these terms to be negative, so I'm going to pull out a negative 3. And I would have a positive 4x. Just kidding, I meant to pull out 4, not 3. It's getting ahead of myself. So I'm going to pull out a negative 4. What's left is a positive 3x plus 1. The parentheses match. I have 3x plus 1 times what was left was x minus 4, which again, you can see is exactly what I had up here. That 4-term polynomial that I changed it into is exactly what I had right here, except for it was just in a different order. I typically will write, I did this on purpose so I would show you what happens if your negative sign comes second. But if there's a positive and a negative, I always write the negative one first, so I don't have to worry about changing it to plus a negative. Okay? So if you have questions on factoring, please let me know.